Impossible as it may seem, the war is getting even larger. This week, yet another front opened in southeastern Europe as Romania joined the war. I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to the Great War. Last week at the Somme, the French completed the capture of Maurepas. The Bulgarians were stopped in Macedonia and the Russians in the Carpathians, while other Russians further south took Bitlis and Mush from the Ottoman Empire. Here's what followed. The Allies may have made gains last week at the Somme, but this week it was the Germans' turn. On August 31st, they launched their biggest counterattack of the 2 months of the Somme campaign so far. On the salient around Delville Wood, they unleashed a thunderous artillery bombardment, and then the infantry came on. They pushed the British back to the ruins of the wood, and within a few hours, all the ground gained there by the British in the second half of August had been lost. There was actually a huge change being made in the German army this week. This week, Chief of Staff Erich von Falkenhayn lost his job and was replaced on August 29th by Paul von Hindenburg, with Hindenburg's right-hand man Erich Ludendorff being named Quartermaster General. Falkenhayn had been losing favor as the year rolled on, and the Battle of Verdun, his brainchild, continued with hundreds of thousands of German casualties. He had tons of enemies in the German government and high command, who had been maneuvering to get rid of him for a while. He had also repeatedly stated that Romania would not join the Allies in the war, at least not until the harvest was in mid-September. When they joined now, Falkenhayn was out. Hindenburg, at 68, was by this time the most revered person in the German-speaking world. Since the victory at Tannenberg in August 1914 made him the savior of the Germans against the Russian hordes, he'd been the big hero. He was also physically a huge rock of a man. He stood nearly 2 meters tall, and he took great care with his public image. He was now in a position to impose great changes on both the German army and German society. Ludendorff had a very different personality. He was cold and high-strung, while Hindenburg was pretty charming and witty. Ludendorff was a real workaholic too, and he had seen something. The Allies' enormous outlay of men and material at the Somme had convinced him that the German army must remobilize to survive. He ordered the establishment of stormtroop battalions in each army. He wanted to triple artillery and machine gun production and double that of trench mortars. And he wanted all of this to happen by May 1917, when he expected the next big Allied offensive. But of course, to do all this, he and Hindenburg would have to interfere pretty heavily in German industry. Their industrial and propaganda drive was called the Hindenburg Program. Already this week, on the 31st, a memorandum went out outlining Germany's disadvantage in men and material and stressed that men must be more and more substituted by machines. The management of the war economy would be centralized, and the army would furlough skilled workers to help the drive, and above all, job one, production must increase drastically. Also on the 29th, Hindenburg and Ludendorff urged the Kaiser to begin unrestricted submarine warfare immediately, whatever effect that would have on the US or Scandinavia, but that didn't happen. Yet. Within 2 weeks, there would be the creation of a Supreme War Command, and Hindenburg effectively took control of all Central Powers armies. Even Enver Pasha, Ottoman Minister of War, and Tsar Ferdinand of Bulgaria were at the conference where that was agreed. And I said that Romania joined the war. They did. On August 27th, Romania mobilized and declared war on the Austro-Hungarian Empire. On the 28th, Germany declared war on Romania, and Italy declared war on Germany. That still hadn't happened. On the 30th, the Ottoman Empire declared war on Romania, and Bulgaria followed suit the next day. Romania's main national interest in going to war was gaining Transylvanian territory, where 3 million ethnic Romanians lived in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. As Russian General Alexei Brusilov's summer offensive against Austria rolled along, widening the border between Russia and Romania at Austrian expense, and seemingly promising Russian support and Austrian collapse, Romanian indecision about joining the war vanished. But you want to know something? France and Russia had signed a secret treaty with Romania on August 17th that when the war was won, Romania would get Transylvania, Bukovina, southern Galicia, and a part of Hungary. But in secret, France and Russia agreed with each other that they would not honor the deal when the time came. That's true. But even if the Romanians had known the deal was made in bad faith, it was still pretty stupid to join the war. Look at their situation. They had Austria-Hungary to the north and Bulgaria to the south, and the possible support of the Russian army certainly wasn't a guarantee of security. Heck, against Bulgaria, that wouldn't matter at all. But Romania went to war with 23 divisions. They did not, though, attack the Bulgarians, which is what the Allies in Salonika had thought they would do, and which they could have supported, but rather moved into Hungary through the Transylvanian Alps. The Austrians organized local defenses into an army under General Arz von Strausenberg, and the Germans would send two armies to fight Romania, part German and part Bulgarian. One of them under Falkenhayn, that was his new job, and one under August von Mackensen, the guy who steamrolled Russia and ravaged Serbia in 1915. Can you imagine facing both Falkenhayn and Mackensen? Well, that was the first Romanian task of the war. Bulgaria will attack Romania with German help from the south under Mackensen, and Austro-German forces under Falkenhayn will attack from the north. Still, as the week ended, Romania had occupied eastern Transylvania. Funny, Romania had, like Italy, been a member of the Triple Alliance in 1914. But King Carol, who was pro-German and wanted to support Germany in the war, died in October 1914. And a new dynasty began with Carol's nephew Ferdinand becoming king and keeping Romania neutral. Ferdinand was actually German by birth, interestingly enough, and because of this betrayal of Germany by joining the Allies, Kaiser Wilhelm had his name removed from the Hohenzollern House register. But you know, General Brusilov and Russian Chief of Staff Mikhail Alexeyev both thought that Romania was more of a liability than an asset. The Romanian army was big on paper, sure, but it was poorly equipped. 5 divisions had no machine guns at all. The other 18 were short of them, as well as artillery and any wheeled transport. They had only stockpiled a 6-week supply of munitions, and anything else would have to come through Russia, which would be a pain. Russia and Romania used different railway gauges, and anyhow, there were only 2 single-track railway lines connecting them. Norman Stone wrote this: British observers felt that the operations of the Romanian army would make a public school field day look like the execution of the Schlieffen Plan. Still, when Romanian troops crossed into the Austro-Hungarian heartland, the Kaiser did panic for a minute and even said, "The war is lost." And here are some notes to round out the week. On September 1st, it's announced that the German mark is down 30% in New York. On August 28th, on the Mesopotamian front, General Sir Stanley Maude replaced General Sir Percy Lake as British Commander-in-Chief. Now, if that sounds confusing, some sources say that already happened in July. And in German East Africa, the British entered Morogoro on the 26th. And yet another week ends. A big shakeup in the German High Command and new plans for the German Army's future. A strong German counterattack at the Somme and a Romanian occupation of Austro-Hungarian territory. Amazing to think that countries are still joining the war, which has produced millions of casualties just this summer alone. Obviously, Romania could see that, and certainly knew that her army was not a match for, say, Germany. But Austria-Hungary looked weak, and there was that same old greed we see month after month. If we're going to take that land, we got to do it now. But we all know, and so should King Ferdinand have known, what the price for that possibility of land would be: hundreds of thousands of dead Romanians. If you want to know more about the power struggle within the Imperial German Army and how Falkenhayn and Hindenburg clashed heads for the first time, you can click here to check out our episode about that. Our Patreon supporter of the week is Pushproop. Cool name. Please support us on Patreon to keep this show running, make it better, more animated, and a lot cooler. You can also support us by buying our official merchandise like the legendary Fosh U poster, now available as a t-shirt. See you next time.